Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Lots of stuff I want to get into, but sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, the news cycle really does a grave disservice to we the people. And we get caught up, the nation gets caught up in the hype of a particular story. And we are pushed and shoved in a particular direction without taking the time to think things through. I'm going to circle back because I've been waiting to do this. And what I'm going to talk about, some of you are going to roll your eyes initially, so hang on there. But it's not really about the NBA. It's not really about Donald Sterling. It's about the rule of law. I watched this Donald Sterling in another interview. I have to tell you, the guy is contemptible. He really is contemptible. Every time he says something, you scratch your head. But that's not what I want to talk about, that the man is contemptible. I want to talk about defending the rule of law, not the man. Certainly not his deplorable comments. Somebody took the time to look at the NBA rules. Somebody took the time to look at the NBA Constitution. And you've heard talk show hosts going on and on for 2-3 weeks now, whatever the time period has been, telling you that owners have morality clauses, telling you that the commissioner has all this power to do this, telling you that an owner doesn't have any due process rights. That's all incorrect. I said at the time, I don't have the desire to go through the NBA Constitution. That said, this didn't smell right to me. It's hard to believe that in this country there'd be no due process rights whatsoever, that an entire business could be confiscated from you, even by an association that you sign up with. And it's hard to believe that an owner would agree as a condition precedent to purchasing a team that that's the kind of power this association would have. So now that things have settled down a little bit, now that this is barely talked about, I want to bring it back, not to try and redeem a man who's irredeemable, because he's a jerk, but because now it's time, without all the hotheads and emotion, to take a look at this. And it matters. It matters a great deal, not because it's the NBA, but because people have rights. I mean, mass murderers have rights in this country, right? Rapists of little girls have rights in this country, right? There's a fella, AJ Delgado. I don't know who he is. He's fairly recent at National Review Online. He contributes there from time to time. He assigns himself the title conservative writer and lawyer. And he took a careful look at the NBA Constitution. And he says, first of all, did you know Sterling has been rejected by at least law firms who won't represent him because they worry that taking him on as a client may upset existing clients and their images? Reminds me of John Adams. John Adams, who took on a case as a young man and a young lawyer, extremely unpopular, defending a redcoat, or at least two of them. in the town of Boston. And you know what story I'm talking about, don't you? Sterling is, as I said, a deplorable character. But does he have any rights? Or is it just all over? So Delgado, National Review Online, he took a look at this. He says, first was Sterling's punishment, a $2.5 million fee and a lifetime ban justified by the NBA's constitution and bylaws. And he said the NBA based the punishment on Article 24 of the NBA Constitution. You want to know what it says? Where a situation arises which is not covered in the Constitution and bylaws, that is of the NBA, the commissioner shall have the authority to make such decision, including the imposition of a penalty, as in his judgment shall be in the best interests of the association. The penalty that may be assessed under the preceding two sentences may include, without limitation, a fine, suspension, and or the forfeiture or assignment of draft choices. No monetary penalty fixed under this provision shall exceed $2.5 million. Notice the first part, where a situation arises which is not covered in the Constitution and bylaws. Sterling's situation is, however, addressed in the documents. Article 24 does not even apply. But even if it did, I might add this. It doesn't give the commissioner power, the kind of power that he exercised. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't apply. Because Sterling's circumstances, where are they addressed? In Article 35AC. This is plain English. Any person who gives, makes, issues, authorizes, or endorses any statement having or designed to have an effect prejudicial or detrimental to the best interests of basketball or of the association or of a member or its team shall be liable to a fine not exceeding $1 million to be imposed by the commissioner. So the NBA did consider a situation such as this, a member of the organization making a bad statement, specifically addressed it, prescribed the punishment. That punishment is $1 million under the rules, not $2.5 million, and no ban, certainly not a lifetime ban, as was imposed on Sterling by the NBA Commissioner Silver. Gets a little more complicated. But we can sort this out. The next clause, Article 35AD, covers another area of discipline. Mark, why are you doing this? There's a reason for this. Really has nothing to do with the NBA. The commissioner shall have the power to suspend for a definite or indefinite period, or to impose a fine not exceeding $1 million, or inflict both such suspension and fine upon any person who, in his opinion, shall have been guilty of conduct prejudicial or detrimental to the association. You're probably thinking, what's the difference between C and D? D, emphasizing conduct. C, emphasizing a statement. Well, first of all, 35 AD allows for a lifetime suspension. That disciplinary measure is limited to punishment regarding conduct. Sterling's statement could fall under the umbrella of conduct, but for the fact that there is a contradictory clause that specifically touches on his situation, a clause specifically addressing something like his statement. That would be the clause most courts would find applicable. Statement, not conduct. Subsection D and its potential lifetime ban refer to a broader situation, not a harmful statement, but harmful conduct, that is, action. And this is all assuming the statement or conduct referred to in the documents encompasses statements or conduct outside of one's NBA-related or professional capacity. So it's arguable and likely that they were not, in fact, intended to extend into one's personal and private life. So it seems the applicable clause to this situation is Article 35AC, dealing with statement, not Article 24, in which case the punishment shall simply be a fine of $1 million. All right. But even if the fine imposed was incorrect under the documents, the other owners can still force him out, right? Well, legal analysts have breathlessly proclaimed, yes, Sterling can be forced out by 3/4 of the NBA Board of Governors, which consists of the other NBA owners. They are citing Article 13 of the NBA Constitution. Well, what does that require? Article 13 requires certain violations for this to be allowed, with subsection A stating members may be shown the door if they, quote, willfully violate any of the provisions of the Constitution and bylaws, resolutions, or agreements of the association, and authorizing this sanction if a member is found to fail or refuse to fulfill its contractual obligations to the association, its members, players, any other third party in such a way as to affect the association or members adversely. All right, stick with me. Well, what contract or agreement with the NBA did Sterling exactly breach? The Constitution and bylaws make no mention of a morality clause for the owners. And yet I bet you've heard hosts implying that there was one. The documents do mention such requirements for players. Bylaws section 2.01. But the lack of a morality clause for owners almost implies the owners are not subject to such restrictions. Why have it in one part applying to players and nobody else? Even if Sterling and other owners signed separate morality contracts with the NBA, the wording would need to be closely analyzed. It would also need to be decided whether a private conversation was a breach of any such morality agreement. Right? In a question and answer regarding the legality issues, an ESPN legal analyst was asked, quote, Sterling is notoriously litigious. Can he go to court to stop Silver from punishing him? To which he answered, not effectively. When Silver issues his punishment to Sterling, the decision is final. The NBA Constitution provides in paragraph 24M that a commissioner's decision shall be final, binding, and conclusive, and shall be as final as an award of arbitration. It is almost impossible to find a judge in the United States judicial system who would set aside an award of arbitration. Sterling can file a lawsuit, but he would face a humiliating defeat early in the process. Well, don't be so sure. Yes, the documents give Commissioner Adam Silver ultimate authority in this decision. That is, only if his decision was grounded in and supported by the governing documents. It's entirely arguable that the punishment was not, in fact, in line with the NBA's rules. I'm going to address one more aspect of this when we return. Isn't it interesting? This Sterling, his latest interview is all over cable, but no analysis of the real legal issues that are involved here. Everybody just assumes that all of this can be done because they hope it can be done. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Couple more quick points just to close this up. In addition to breach of contract, breach of implied... Oh, by the way, let me make a correction. AJ Delgado is a woman, not a guy. Sorry. I mean, how was I supposed to know? AJ Delgado. Flipped the coin and I was wrong. But she's an excellent lawyer. I understand she's fresh out of Harvard Law School. Well, every now and then. In addition to the breach of contract, breach of implied contract, or business interference claims, and I would add tortious interference, Sterling may also boost his case by arguing the NBA has inconsistently applied its constitution and bylaws. Other owners and players have misbehaved yet have not received a corresponding punishment. No question about that. I read a list of those to you a couple of weeks ago. There's the angle of whether the provision in the NBA documents allowing a member to be deprived of his ownership interest is an unconscionable provision and should be void. Courts do that. Courts sitting in equity. A ban from attending games or actively participating in the organization's events and decisions? Sure, fair enough. But depriving Sterling of his property? That doesn't seem to pass the smell test. Exactly what I said. When Sterling recently exclaimed, "You can't force somebody to sell property in America," he hit upon a valid defense. Critics were quick to smirk by bringing up the existence of eminent domain. But the controversial practice of eminent domain exists because one's property rights are balanced against a compelling governmental or societal interest. Where's the societal interest or need in forcing Sterling to sell his property? The NBA may have reacted too confidently and too quickly in the wake of the Sterling case, biting off more than it was able to chew. A more sensible approach of slowly exploring its true legal options would have been the prudent course rather than rushing to those calling for the guy's head. Now the organization finds itself in a pickle. To make matters trickier, as tempers slow down, public opinion is starting to shift in favor of Sterling. As Forbes' Michael Ozanian reported this week, a Rasmussen poll last week found only 38% of Americans feel Sterling should be forced to sell the team, and that was before his apology on the Anderson Cooper show. Well, that doesn't matter. Nobody saw it. It's on CNN. There's only one thing that can save CNN, Mr. Producer. That's me. But I'm not interested. Why should anyone care? Because Americans are rightly growing weary of watching others, whether a celebrity or an average Joe, lose their livelihood, even their lifetime's work, over mere remarks, and I would say even over heinous remarks. For a civilization fond of the actions speak louder than words axiom, lately we feel justified in dragging to the stocks anyone who says the wrong thing. And employers, whether it's a network reacting to Phil Robertson's interview or the NBA reacting to the Sterling tape, are far too quick to give in to the hysteria. The NBA certainly rushed to chastise and severely punish Donald Sterling, largely to appease the mob. She writes, I would say they had every right to punish him and punish him thoroughly and fully under the NBA Constitution and bylaws. But it would appear to me that they twisted the language in the NBA Constitution and bylaws to get the result that was demanded. Whether there's a court brave enough to deal with this, I don't know. I'll be right back.